Hello, Paracave podcast listeners. My name is Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty and long-term sponsor of the Paracave podcast. If you're looking to sell your property or buy, or just curious to know what your property is worth in today's market, give me a call today on 0421 588 445.
Welcome to another episode of the Paracave podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Paracave.
And yes, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Paracave podcast. Troy Warner here, and this is my answers to your questions on the Q&A podcast. So you will see on Instagram and Facebook that I put out each Sunday night after the last NRL game. I will put out a Q&A podcast post where you have the opportunity to ask me any questions about the NRL, the NRLW, and the Parramatta Eels, or rugby league in general, or any question you want, really, to be honest. I'll go through those ones and I'll answer them on a Monday and bring out a podcast on Monday. So stay tuned for that one. And look, we kicked this one off. This one is from the Facebook page, and it is from Tom Shearer. And his question is, with Simonson re-signing and Lomax on the way, our backline seems to be like they are going to be sport for choices, given all the young talent like Ethan Martin, Jake Tungo, Lorenzo Mulatalo, etc. My question is, what is your backline for 2025 look like? That's the first part of the question. The second part of the question is, and what forwards or second row would you sign if we lose a few of our regulars? Now, look, I will answer the second part of the question first. And look, I have had a list of players off contract at the end of this year, 2024, that will become available. That one was sent to me. I think that one was via Clarkie's Rugby League column, I think it was. A friend of mine at work sent me that one. Look, I've had a look through that one. It doesn't look like there is to be much second row or front row talent there that I would be rushing out to sign at Parramatta for next season. So other than that, those players on the list, I don't really know who is available, to be honest, to be signed up at Parramatta. Look, I think there has been a few players and forwards been tapped on the shoulder. You could say that Jason Riles, I think, probably has tapped them on the shoulder and said that you are free to move to another club if another club will take you. Most notably, it has come out today that the North Queensland Cowboys were circling about RCG, as he may have been one of those players, or is one of those players, I should say, that has been tapped on the shoulder for next year, with the North Queensland Cowboys interested in signing him for their team. The only sticking point at the moment is Valentine Holmes, who is still at the club. There was talks that he was potentially in talks with the Dragons as well. There was also talk that he would want to stay at North Queensland as well. So, look, that one's an interesting one there. Now, to the the first part of that question that you asked about my backline for Parramatta for 2025. Look, there is a lot of young talent coming through. Don't forget too, you've got Arthur Miller-Stevens, who is due to come back as well. He suffered a knee injury, I think it was at the start of the year in pre-season training, and which ruled him out for the whole season. He did play, I think, 1, maybe 2 games of first grade last season, 2023, I think. So he is due to come back at some stage. So that's one that probably a lot of Parramatta fans have maybe forgotten about, but he is due to come back. Look, there's still Hayes Dunster at the club as well. Obviously Sean Russell as well. He's been playing on the wing the last couple of games for Parramatta. Richard Penasini as well. He had a injury that kept him out of this year as well, so he is due back as well. So you're right, along with those other names that you have mentioned there. But my backline for next season would probably be something like Clint Gutherson at fullback. I'd probably put Zach Lomax on the wing. Look, he's played his best footy this season, I think, in a long time, if not ever, I reckon anyway, on the wing. He made his Origin debut for New South Wales on the wing. So, look, I would keep him on the wing in that position. You obviously have Will Penasini in the centre. That way you don't have to move him. There was talk about him changing sides. So you don't have to move him if you've got Zach on the wing. So I would go Gutho at fullback. I would go Zach Lomax on the wing. Will Penasini as one centre. I'd probably put Bailey Simonson as the other centre. And then it is a shootout, isn't it, between those players that you mentioned, Lorenzo Mulatalo, Jake Tungo, Ethan Martin as well. So I'd like to see Ethan Martin get a run. A lot of raps on him. Unfortunately, he injured himself a few weeks ago. I think he could be back for New South Wales Cup now. But it'd be interesting to see him get a start in first grade very fast, and that's what we like to have at Parramatta is speed. So I'd like to see him get an opportunity, perhaps. Definitely in the trials and maybe round 1, but we'll just have to wait and see till 2025. But please, Tom, let me know your backline for 2025. Now, heading over to the Instagram page and through the stories, I also put it up as a post as well, but no responses through the post, but through the story, I did get some responses there, so thank you very much to those who responded. I really, really appreciate that one. And the ones that I got, one was from the Couch Commentators, so a great podcast going around that you can check out, obviously about rugby league as well. They also give some horse racing tips as well, so give them a follow on Instagram and see if you can follow their tips and see if you can get a winner or two. But hey, gamble responsibly. Look, they put through the last try to Penrith on Friday night, the obstruction try. Do you think Penrith gets special treatment? Now, look, it has come out today from Graham Annesley, the head of football, the head of the referees, I think he is, that the try was a try. The NRL has confirmed that the final Penrith Panthers try in that game was the correct call. There was no obstruction. Liam Martin met his obligations as the lead runner. Graham Annesley accepts people will have different views but believes the explanation by the bunker which reviewed the try was valid. Now, look, this is rugby league. It is always a talking point, isn't it? And I'm sure we will hear about this one throughout the obviously the TV media and also fans media as well, fans podcasts like myself. But look, I think it should have been a no try, and the reason I say that is because, look, the man got knocked down, didn't he? So whether he had a chance of making that tackle or not, he got knocked down. The lead runner, which was Liam Martin, he got knocked down, and I was of the belief that you cannot, as a lead runner, you cannot take out any defensive players in the line. So, look, maybe I've got my blue and gold goggles on, but as a fan, I thought that wasn't a try. I thought with him getting knocked down, I think it was Arcee, got knocked down, the fact that it shouldn't have been a try. Do I think Penrith get special treatment? Look, potentially. I think there was another moment in that game as well that I think RCG, it was ruled that he lost the ball. Now, is it special treatment towards Penrith? Probably not, but I thought that he got the ball stripped from the Penrith player, but that wasn't ruled a strip, that was ruled a lost ball from RCG, I think it was at the time. Do I think they get special treatment? Look, it's a hard one to say. Every team gets their moments every now and again, but look, maybe being the Premiers, maybe they do get a little bit extra special treatment, who knows, but that could be just the Parramatta fan coming out in me. But look, it's hard to say. As I said, every team probably gets a few calls their way each and every game, each and every year, each and every week. So, look, it probably works out in the end here and there. I mean, you're going to have other fans say that other clubs get special treatment as well in games. You're going to have fans that say, the NRL is rigged. They just want to see one or two teams possibly win it. So they want to see that the grand final is two certain teams. But look, I don't see it that way at all. The next question comes from YTG with Nick, a great NRLW fan. Even made the trek up to Brisbane last weekend for the Eels-Cowboys game and the doubleheader, the Eels-Cowboys and the Broncos and Titans game. So a great supporter of women's rugby league. And look, the first one, Nick actually sent through two questions, and look, I don't mind that. If you want to send through more than one, then you are more than welcome. But her first question was, how good to see our girls get the win in round number 3, and with a few upsets in the round, they sit in third position on the ladder, on the NRLW ladder. Yes, there were a few upsets in the round. I guess you could say that the Broncos absolutely smashed the Titans, 44 points to 4, and the Dragons beat the Newcastle Knights up there in Newcastle as well, 18 points to 10. And with Parramatta getting the win against the Cowboys, 20 points to 6, their second win of the year. They sit in third position on the ladder currently, which is a great result for the Parramatta Eels, as last season they only won one game in the whole competition. So now they have doubled that. Look, there's still a long way to go, obviously. I think about another 6 rounds to go. So there is still a long way to go in that competition. So they still have to work hard and hopefully make that top 4 and have a chance of getting into the grand final. So, look, they're playing really good footy at the moment. I think Rachel Pearson and Elsie Albert have made a huge difference. They didn't play a lot of football last year with this team, so they have played all 3 games this year. They have made a difference. Parramatta beat the Broncos up there at Suncorp Stadium in round 1. They narrowly went down to the Sharks last weekend, 18 points to 16. after last season being smashed by them by 50 points. It was a massive effort against the Sharks. They actually led them during the game, and then obviously the win against the Cowboys. So they're playing some good footy. They are emerging some great talent as well on the field. Rory Owen in the centres scored in her first 2 games of NRLW. 181 metres last weekend, 100 and something this weekend. Chloe Jackson in the second row, I think she is a real workhorse and a player to watch. Went close to scoring a try, did a lot of tackles on the weekend, and look, leads into your next question there that you've sent through, Nick, so thank you very much for that one. Abby Church, second on the ladder in the Dally M medal counts for the NRLW. I think Abby deserves this. She has been amazing. Yeah, look, Abby Church at fullback. She's found that position now at fullback. It is her position. Scored a try on the weekend and is just really... so she's playing some good footy. Probably maybe the female version of Gutho, as she really wants to win every single game that she plays, gets involved in the play as well, takes those hard hit-ups, takes those big tackles at fullback. I don't know how any fullback, let alone... I don't know how any fullback does... take a ball and then get smashed by the opposition, but Abby certainly does that, and is sitting second on the Dally M leaderboard for the NRLW. I think 2 points. I think it's 2 points behind the leader at the moment. I think Lauren Brown is the leader at the moment. But also Rachel Pearson is in there. I think she's in the top 5 as well on 7 points. So it's great to see a couple of Parramatta players in that Dally M leaderboard at the moment. So playing some good footy. Abby is for sure, and one of the crucial players for this Parramatta Eels NRLW side. The next question and final question comes from Benny Duplessis, and I hope I've pronounced that one correctly. And he's a massive Roosters fan. I do know that one, and the Roosters are playing the Parramatta Eels this weekend, this Friday night. No doubt I may be on Roosters Mania TV previewing this game, as I did the first time we played them couple of months ago, I think it was. Now, I think he is talking about Parramatta when he says, what do you see as the biggest challenge in 2025? Now, I'm assuming, Benny, you are talking about Parramatta there. What is the biggest challenge? And I'm assuming what is the biggest challenge for Jason Riles? Look, I think the biggest challenge for Jason, and if this is what you are indeed asking about, I think the biggest challenge for Jason Riles is just getting that connectivity between himself, his coaching staff, and the players, and getting them to buy into what he is about. He is a new face at the club, or will be a new face at the club next year, so I think getting them to buy into what he is about. It is his first grade appointment as a head coach. We all know his previous records as a assistant coach down at the Melbourne Storm and at your club, the Sydney Roosters. So, look, I think that will be the biggest challenge. If the players can buy in to what he is about and what the coaching staff is about, then that will go a long way in towards winning games and making the finals. Thinking that Parramatta haven't made the finals the last 2 seasons after making that grand final in 2022 against the Panthers. So, look, I think that will be the biggest challenge. As a Parramatta fan, I think, and like other Parramatta fans, I think they should and I should get behind Jason Ryles in his first season. Look, it is a massive job, this head coaching position at Parramatta. It's a big club. There's a lot of expectation, I guess, with the drought, that the premiership drought that keeps on getting talked about every single year. Then I guess it is a massive job. So, and particularly what has happened this year at the Parramatta Eels in terms of Brad Arthur being sacked, players leaving, it is a massive job. It is potentially a massive rebuild at the club. Well, it is a rebuild at the club just to get them back into the finals, get them winning. First of all, get them winning games of football, turning around their second half collapses that we have seen in 2024, getting them fitter, and hopefully winning NRL games and then making their way into the finals, and then who knows what can happen in finals. But that's what I think his biggest challenge will be, is to get the players to buy into what he is about. As I said, he is a new face at Parramatta. He hasn't had any connection with Parramatta in the past. He's not a former player of the club. So he's someone completely different. I'm not even sure if any of the other players have had anything to do with Jason Ryles, unless they have come from the Roosters or the Melbourne Storm. But I don't think there is anyone. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head. But I think that will be the biggest challenge that Jason will face. Look, I think the other battle that he will face as well is potentially the outside noise as well. I guess the media noise about how the team is performing. As I said, with that premiership drought that gets talked about each and every year, that is a lot of pressure. And look, if Parramatta are losing games at the start of the year, then that pressure will mount as well. Look, I don't think Parramatta will part ways with Jason in any shape or form after his first year, because that would not be fair on Jason Ryles, because he's just signed a new contract with the Parramatta Eels, so it is a big job. So it would not be fair to part ways with Jason after just 1 year, because it's not his team that he is inheriting. He will obviously be looking to market next year for 2026 and beyond, and that's when we should be judging him and his performances potentially in 2026, 2027. It is a 4-year deal I think he has signed at the Parramatta Eels, so probably by about year 3 you would like to think that he has got the team that he wants. He's got the players that he wants. So that's when you'll be judged on your results. So this next year is a team that he has inherited. Look, there might be a few changes before now and next season. So he may get a couple of players that he wants for next season. We don't know. That is the game of rugby league. So who knows? We just have to watch this space. So he just has to block out the outside noise, especially if Parramatta are losing games, as to what's happening. Probably his biggest challenge is player managers as well. We have seen all the noise about Mitchell Moses wanting to leave the club, and it's got a lot to do with his manager, Isaac Moses. So look, that's something that Jason will have to deal with next season, I believe. I believe that Mitchell is committed to the Parramatta Eels for the length of his contract, but for his contract before his option comes up, which is in 2026, I think it is. So I think that'll be another big challenge for Jason. So a lot of work for Jason Ryles and his team at the Parramatta Eels next season. But thank you very much, Benny, for sending your question through. I really appreciate it. So, listeners, that's it for the Q&A podcast today. Thank you for those who sent through questions. I really appreciate it. Look, stay tuned to the Instagram page on a Sunday night after the last NRL game, and look for the post on Instagram and Facebook, the big Q&A podcast post, and you'll be able to post your questions, and I will answer them on a Monday afternoon, late Monday afternoon, early Monday night, and I'll get this podcast out Monday nights before the tipping podcasts, which will come out on Tuesdays. So thank you very much for those who did send through questions, and look forward next week to answering even more questions. Enjoy the rest of your week. This week coming up, I have the tipping podcast to come through. I have the player interview podcast to come through. I have a game day preview podcast against the Roosters, as I just mentioned before, and I'll have a game review podcast as well, probably come out next week as well, next Monday. So look, plenty of content coming through. Out now on the podcast is the game review, the Eels and Panthers round 23, also the NRLW review, also a short little NRLW review roundup with Kayana Takarangi, I should say, former premiership winner with the Newcastle Knights. I had a very interesting chat with her about the NRLW, something that I hope we can do each and every week as well for you guys, the listeners. So plenty of and then, of course, this podcast will come out. So thank you very much for listening. It'll be available on Apple and Spotify and YouTube as well. Please share it with your family and friends. I really appreciate the support. Thank you very much for listening. Go Para! The Para Cave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Leagues Club, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, BTZD Clothing, and the official media partner of the Para Cave Podcast, the Parramatta Times.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Para Cave Podcast. See you next time.